everyone, Lord Daimyo here, and this is my review for Candy Flurry manga chapter number 8, or Ame no Furu chapter 8. So let's just jump into it, shall we? So we've got a cool cover page. I don't know if we've had a lot of those before, but it's like a jeep, sort of like a warehouse looking area with Umino and Tsurugi just hanging out. So it was pretty cool. And then we sort of get like a recap of what happened the chapter before. So I don't know if it was just to... This whole chapter seemed like it was kind of just stretching a bit, I guess, to fill up the pages, but really not a lot of stuff happened. So we kind of got a recap of Umino throwing that other reset trainee who jumped down to attack him, and it shows Misaki and EDA and the other reset agents that are running the test. It shows them watching him on a screen and talking about him, saying, "Wow, he was just trembling a second ago. Why and how is he so powerful?" And then we get the big explosion that happened. We get this guy with the spiky hair and the chain necklace, and it's showing him actually defeating these reset trainees. So they're saying, "Oh no, I'll give up," and this villain is like, "Hey, no, this isn't a test. There's no giving up." And then he flicks something at him, and it explodes on the reset trainee. So at first I thought, is this Pop Rocks? Because if you watched my video trying to predict what the other Stellar Ultramont users' powers were, I thought one of them could have been Pop Rocks, and that he would use this the same way, where he'd throw or flick a Pop Rock and it would explode. So I was like, wow, this could be the same thing. Who knows? I had no idea what this was. So then this villain's talking about, oh, the Confetto is enhancing their powers, but they're still too weak for me. And then we get Umino and Tsurugi coming up, and Tsurugi found her Confetto case, and then they see all the fallen trainees. So then the villain goes and flicks whatever he's flicking at Umino, and like a boss, he sees it, reacts to it, and hits it with his huge reset fork and flicks it back at the villain, and it explodes behind him. And this chapter is also very funny, but I think this humor is also padding out the chapter. I'm fine with it, I really am. I was talking before on the Candy Flurry subreddit that some readers were getting a little upset at the pacing and how fast it was. And I was saying, yeah, it is fairly fast, but I am enjoying it. And pacing in manga, especially battle manga, does get kind of fast at first. I mean, if we go and look at My Hero Academia, Deku goes from just being a little weakling to getting his powers and doing the entrance exam in 6-7 chapters. And we're at chapter 8, and we've had a lot of fast stuff happen too. So, anyways. So, it's really funny. And Umino says, "That guy threw corn at us." And Tsurugi's, thinking about it. And she asks the villain, "Are you a farmer?" And the villain says, "Nope." And Tsurugi and Umino are just looking at each other like, what does this mean? It's so funny. And then the villain's like, "You guys have good hand coordination. I can't believe, you could hit this. It is a kernel, like a corn kernel." So then I immediately, as soon as it was a corn kernel, I'm like, oh, popcorn. Obviously. He can produce these kernels. He flicks them. They explode. And I guess are popcorn. And then we later find out, that he takes all these kernels, throws them up in the air, they explode like firecrackers, and then it rains down actual popcorn. So it's like, haven't you guys heard of popcorn? So this was a little weird because when we were first introduced to these sweet users, it was just kind of candy and like confectionaries, like sweet things. So a lollipop obviously is like a candy. Donuts and macaroons are sort of like baked good confectionery snacks and cakes, sort of things. Ice cream is not candy and not a baked good confection, but it is like a dessert. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a general dessert aspect. The lollipops are desserts, macaroons, donuts, and uh, ice cream are desserts. Fine. And then the next one we get is popcorn. So now I'm even more confused. So this may be a Japanese culture thing where popcorn is seen more as a dessert, or the sweet user powers are changing scope again. Instead of it first originally just being candy and then like sweets and then desserts, now it's just sort of a dessert snack sort of thing. So if this is the case where we get popcorn, I know a lot of people were guessing Stella Entremont's powers, one of them to be a pretzel user, and I immediately wrote that off because I said no, pretzels are like a snack food. They're like a bread, like they're not really a dessert per se. But now that we have popcorn, it's kind of all out. I mean, we could have chips, we could have French fries, maybe. I mean, we could have tons of things, tons of things. So peanuts, like some sort of nuts, we could have too. I mean, it really just kind of depends. I think, of course, it'll all be food based, but maybe not something as huge like hamburgers or a pizza. But I don't know. Who knows? Okay, so we go to the actual reset agents like EDA, Amanai, and Misaki, and all the cameras were black. They were taken out by the popcorn user. And they're like, oh, okay, this isn't good. There's an explosion. And Amanai immediately takes charge and is like, hey, we're forming two teams, Team Irie and Team Amanai. Amanai is going to the west, and Irie is going to the east. And they're like, okay. And then Amanai says, Irie, do you know the eastern area? And she's like, not at all. And so then Amanai says, all right, Team EDA is hereby disbanded. Like, come on. So funny. Like, it's just so funny. But then kind of just patting it out. But whatever. It's funny. And then Amanai's like, oh, well, she's useful no matter where she goes, so we're switching it. She's going to the east. And they're like, okay. And EDA's talking to Misaki, and she's like, I got scolded. And he's like, all right. So now we go back to Umino, Tsumugi, and the popcorn user fighting. And there's a bunch of popcorn everywhere. And here we get some more comedy. Umino says, we have to stay and fight. Tsumugi's saying, no, hey, let's just run. This isn't part of the test. Let's go. Which is another good example of Tsumugi being sort of greedy and self-centered. So, which is great. I love that we're keeping this character feature of her. So, not to a fault where it's bad, but she's like, hey, let's just run, And Umino's like, no, we can't. He looks to the side and says, in a big, huge, heroic voice, if we let him go, more people will get hurt. And I'll distract him and fight him. Tsumugi, you go save the people. And Tsumugi's like, why would we do that? They're complete strangers. And Umino's looking to the side again. And then boasts all heroically, as a reset agent candidates, it's our duty. And then we notice that he was looking at a camera. So Tsumugi's like, okay, out with it. What's going on? And Umino just completely breaks and says, oh, you see that camera over there? If EDA Senpai's watching, it'll look a lot cooler, won't it? And Tsumugi just looks over all casual, just annoyed, and is like, if the camera's broken, like the wire's been cut. And she's trying to explain it, and she's like, take a look. And Umino's like, no, I'm not going to look, because if I look, EDA could see me looking and know that, like, I'm faking and I'm not cool. And Tsumugi's like, you just looked before. It's so hilarious. Like, it's really, really so hilarious. So Umino just runs and he's like, hey, you got this, I'm gonna fight him. And she's like, okay, whatever. And then he like steps on one of these popcorn and like it stumbles, like he stumbles, and the popcorn user just throws corn at him and explodes at his face. And here we go, Umino still trying to be cool, saying, oh, you're pretty good, and trying to act all heroic like typical shonen antagonist. It's really kind of funny. It's sort of like a satire sort of parody look at traditional shonen anime manga main characters. Like he's acting exactly how you would think a main character would talk and act, saying, "Oh, no matter what, we have to save them," and I'm heroic for heroic deeds. And Tsumugi should be the same way and say, "Hey, I'm heroic for heroic deeds. I'm going to help these people." But the both of them are so childlike and selfish that Tsumugi's like, "Hey, let's just save ourselves and run." And Umino's like, no, I'm only helping and doing this stuff so I can look good to EDA, who I have a crush on. Like, it's so hilarious. It really is. I've been saying this and saying this every chapter, that it's like they're in an adult world, but these are kids. And they're trying to act like adults, but they're just kids. I mean, EDA's like, oh no, I got scolded. I don't know where this place is. And Misaki saying, wow, I'm so surprised Aminai's taking charge like this. And Tsumugi saying, let's just run, who cares? And Umino's like, well, I am only being strong to show my crush. Like, it's so good. It's so good. That's I think, one of the best things about Candy Flurry. The fighting's awesome, the powers are great, the whole world building is actually pretty cool too. But what I really like is deep down these immature, childish kids with their defects. Their character traits are some defects that really shine through the whole way. And it really gives a great juxtaposition of these big important things that they're doing and able to do. And yet they're so childlike and have these defaults. I just absolutely love it. More people need to read Candy Flurry. Okay, so now that Umino has been beat up a little bit, he's sitting here shaking and is scared and it seems like he's about to cry. So he's reverting back again, which, just like I was saying, I love it. His villains, flicking more corn at him. He's getting hurt. They're fighting. Tsumugi's saving people. And this villain says, see, look, you'd be better if you were just curled up in a fetal position like all these other people. And then Umino has like a little flashback of EDA, and he's like, I'm here to help those who are curled up in a fetal position. And you're like, oh, maybe he is actually being heroic. And then the villain's laughing, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And Umino yells, I'm showing off. Like, I tell you what, not only is it funny, and not is it only like satire for typical shonen anime, but this is his character of wanting to show off and being a crybaby but strong. I just talked about it so much, I'm not going to talk about it again. Like, it's so good. So the popcorn user flicks a corn at him, blows up, Umino's down. Tsumugi rushes over, and she's like, are you alright? And he said, I can't fight anymore, leave me and run. Which we're like, okay, maybe he's being heroic. And Tsumugi's like, seriously, stop showing off. So the other injured trainees hear this, and they start running. And the villain's like, see, like, you all should be running like them. Isn't it pathetic that the people you're trying to save aren't helping you and they're just running? And the villain's calling him a loser. And this is actually pretty cool. Tsumugi says, he could have dodged those attacks, but he didn't. And you took advantage of his weakness. And now you're laughing at him. And she said, you're the real loser. And this villain's just, he doesn't know what's going on. And that's the end of the chapter. So we got a really cool picture of Tsumugi saying, you're the real loser. It's really awesome. But I think Tsumugi was like standing up for Umino, but also just kind of telling it like it is. Like, hey, no, you are a loser. Like, I know you're, but what am I? Like, just simple name calling stuff. So, I really love it. But I'm really hoping, since this chapter was so padded out, that they had timed this. The mangaka Takeguchi, I think Takeguchi just sort of padded out this chapter so that at the very start of chapter 9, we get Tsumugi fighting this popcorn user. And the whole chapter is just a good old fight. And I'm really curious now, even more, to see how Tsumugi's going to fight him. Because we don't have Umino helping. It's just a one-on-one Tsumugi versus popcorn user. And we know Tsumugi shouldn't use her lollipop. She might because there's no cameras around. But I kind of hope she doesn't. Like, the cameras are out, the other people aren't around, so she could get her lollipop out and be fine. Umino might see it or he might not, and if he does, she'd just say, hey, we're friends now, don't tell anyone. And, joins the group of people who know, which actually might be good there. But I'm hoping Tsumugi doesn't use her lollipop because it'll show what she could do as a reset agent and sort of shows some growth for her in battle-wise. So she has her confetto. I hope she takes it really quick and then uses like her spoon and really uses it like her lollipop and defeats the popcorn user. That's what I'm hoping for chapter 9. And we will see that in a week, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please comment something about this chapter. Just let me know your thoughts, ideas, predictions about it, how cool all these sweet users are, and how funny this chapter was, or just anything in general. Also, you can follow me on Twitter if you want. Link is in the description in the comments, or all in the description down below. I follow everyone back. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day.